So,
Well, good morning, everyone. I am so glad you joined us. And together we're going to talk about a topic near and dear to my heart, which is self-love, which I find is the key to inner harmony. And just to give you a brief intro, my name is Shruti Goel. And among other things, I am a self-love and empowerment coach. And I've been in the healthcare industry about 2 decades now. And um, I've come upon insights during that time that have helped me both live a more meaningful and joyful life. And my experiences are what inspire me to share more about starting your very own self-love journey. And let me tell you a little bit about that journey. And I would say for me, very consciously, that self-love journey began maybe 10 years ago when I had to make a really tough decision. So I was studying in medical school and found that I was drawn to helping people with dementia. And one particular project I worked on in a paper we published was about the Alzheimer Poetry Project, where we use poetry as a way of engaging people with Alzheimer's disease. And it was so compelling to see the effects that art has on us as human beings. It was just such a transformational experience in my life that I knew that I wanted to devote the rest of my life to doing non-pharmaceutical interventions with people with dementia. And then I had the biggest privilege after having come back from medical school. I had the biggest privilege of working in my dream job at Johns Hopkins Medicine, facilitating activities
hmm.
for people with dementia, and as well as helping their care partners and really delving into and understanding what their challenges are. And during that time, I also
हाँ
found that
ये क्या हाल है?
while doing this work, I'm
कौन
just
है
going
तो
to
माणूस?
pause for a moment. Can you please go on mute? Thank you. Um, so I found that as I was delving into this work myself, that being a professional in this space was really tough. And I was beginning to feel burnout at different points. And during this time, then I decided to study self-love coaching, life coaching as a discipline and as a principle. And I found great joy in being able to do that. And so this morning, I just want to share some of those insights with you. And before we get started with the talk itself, I invite you to do this little exercise, which is something that I do. And it comes from a woman by the name of Donna Eden. I don't know if anyone has heard of her before, but she has so many free YouTube videos about energy medicine techniques. And it has become now one of my enduring passions to learn energy medicine techniques because they help you um, tap into our own body's ability to heal. And so we're going to do a technique right now, which is called crown pull. And with it, I'm just going to ask you to just warmly rub your hands together and bring your hands gently to your forehead. And we're just going to massage across the forehead right now. And this particular technique, you're going to take both your hands and come to the midline of your hair. And then with a little bit of pressure, you're going to push in and keep going along that center line as you take deep breaths all the way around the back of your head and gently all the way down to your neck. And then when you reach your neck, just take your hands and just provide some traction to the back of your neck, just gentle traction. And you can pull your hands down slightly and just bring them across your shoulders briefly. And with this, one of the things you might notice is that there might be some fluid, some lymph that's starting to move. But also with a crown pull exercise, we're literally making space in our heads for new information. So it has both a physical effect, a physiological effect, but it also has a psychological effect of just letting you come to the present moment. And I hope that when you walk away from our discussion today, that you have many such techniques and ideas that you can walk away from this talk with. So let's get started then. And I wanted to share one of my favorite quotes in this area, especially living in the US, we have such privilege with the opportunities and the work that we do here, but it can sometimes come with its share of pressures. And I just want to remind us, what if our markers of success were how well we slept at night, how many books we had read, how easily we had laughed, how much time we had spent storytelling about our own lives, feeling warm in the arms and homes of people that we adore. And you can see the source of the original quote there. So just take that in. What if we could have different markers of success? And beginning your self-love journey certainly does that for you. And so I'm making a bold claim here that self-love is the superpower of the year 2025. And I just want to share with you why I think of it that way. You know, um, let's talk a little bit about history from the 1900s when the industrial age began. We started having a predominance of machines, especially in our workspaces where we work, whether it was factories. Later, that gave way in the 1990s to, of course, the 2000s, to what we came to know as the information age, where it wasn't just what the machines were doing for us or helping us produce or yield, but rather it became the information age where the machine transformed into a computer. And the computer or laptop was generating information for us to take in and uh, come out with meaningful information to share with others and transform business as it has. But if you look at the age that we have come into, since the pandemic, especially, I would say, in the 2020, this current decade that we're in, and think of what happens when we think about AI, artificial intelligence, taking over different functions in our life. On the one hand, yes, it does bring up a lot of fear and concern about whether our current jobs are going to stay the way they are. But there is a flip side to that. And the flip side to that is that in this new age that we're entering, it's going to be an age of intuition and wisdom. And why I say that is because what AI is not able to do very well is to provide that human touch, provide that human connection, and synthesize information in a different way that we as human beings do. We're each unique individuals, and our perspective adds something valuable to the world. And so that's why I believe that self-love is a superpower of 2025, because if we can have that love towards ourselves, if we can um, get to know ourselves, our likes and dislikes, and what works for us, what doesn't work for us, that then makes us potentially a powerful brand. Think about how many people that have even joined us today are either already entrepreneurs or have thought of becoming an entrepreneur. When you are one, um, whether it's a small business owner or a coach or what have you, you are the person that's representing your company. You represent your brand. And how can you do that if you don't know who you yourself are? So, as we're entering this age of intuition and wisdom, I really find that going on the self-love journey is going to become indispensable to our very existence. But I think, in addition to that, of course, it's wonderful if we are able to um, know these things about ourselves so that we can better um, manage our emotions and learn how to exist in the world with resilience when we get hit with unexpected situations or stress. And so I wanted to kind of share with you a little bit from my worldview what encompasses self-love. And I would say the most important thing here is that know thyself component. Acknowledging, which is, we know, such a difficult thing to do, acknowledging what our needs are. And many of us, especially those of us who are female, have been raised with the idea that our value comes from, being there for everyone else. But what about yourself? Because if we don't know how to take care of ourselves, how can we truly be there for anyone else? So acknowledging and fulfilling your needs first. And that's really what I call self-full rather than selfish. So just remember that keyword, self-full. Self-soothing your nervous system. How many times during our day do we feel so dysregulated, so frustrated that we just want to stamp our feet and get mad? But if we could find a way through these kind of techniques, what we just did, like a crown pull, that allows us to tap into um, a soothing quiet in the present moment. If we could just do that, our days would be much smoother. And I also wanted to share that self-love is also about generating your joy. Sometimes we feel so dependent on outside circumstances to give joy to us. I want to today just share how you can dig your own well of joy. And the deeper that well of joy is, the more you can tap into it in times of crisis and be able to drink from that sweet nectar and live your life in a more joyful way without needing for the circumstances in your life to change. I think that's powerful, and it's gets to the core of empowerment actually, because when you're not dependent on an outside source for your joy, you are truly empowered. Uh, I could have the world's worst thing unfolding in my life right now, and yet I can sit here and be present with all of you. Preparing for your interactions with others. I love this one, and especially when it comes to being a care partner to someone else in your life. And that is that if you are frustrated and burnt out and spent, you can't really be there in a loving, gentle, kind manner. Think of yourself as a parent, or in being a caregiver to your parents. um, you want to be able to prepare for that, in that you want to shift your mindset into something more neutral, at least, or positive if you can, because that gives you some currency to walk into that interaction with. And then you can spend that joy with that person rather than only having frustration to give in response to whatever you're receiving from them. And then finally, something that I consider so important to self-love, which is positive self-talk. And I speak from experience that I have a very strong inner critic that is constantly trying to beat me up. Even as soon as right before this presentation, the thought came into my mind, well, who's going to take their time on a Saturday to or a Sunday to join us for this conversation? And yet here I am, and here you are. And it's so important to counter these self-critical thoughts that arise because, yes, they serve a purpose. They want to protect us, um, but they also hold us back from so much joy that we could have. And then let's just take a quick look. We know these intuitively, but I just want to touch on them briefly, which is what is not self-love? So self-love is not overindulgence, or just becoming hedonistic, only seeking pleasure. That's not what self-love is about. It's not about staying within your comfort zone either. Some forms of self-love will feel very challenging in the beginning for you, and that's okay. What self-love will allow you to do is actually expand your comfort zone in a slower way, but in a way that you're able to keep growing as a person. It's also not avoidance. Just a perfect example of this is just saying no to avoid the discomfort of having to talk to someone is not what self-love dictates. Now, if you know that the other person is someone that intentionally hurts you in some way, then it would be an act of self-love to set a boundary. But simple avoidance or disconnection, meaning just isolating yourself, is not self-love either. So I just want to share a few insights from my coaching work here. And that is that when we hear this self-critical voice that comes up inside us, I want you to try and remind yourself that that is not your authentic voice. That is not the voice of your authentic self. Okay. So, because when we're initially becoming aware of the self-critical voice, we don't know the difference. We just think that whatever's coming up from within us is the truth. And it's a very powerful thing to recognize the voice of your self-critic. And I'm going to go so far as to have you make a note, if you can, to see if you can give it a funny name, give it a silly name, so that when you spot its voice, you can, just recognize that it is something other than your authentic self. And I don't mind sharing. Mine is called Prudy. And why Prudy? Because she is a prude. And in most cases where I would want to, explore a new idea or do something that, maybe something someone else in my family hasn't done, meaning, trying something new for the first time, whether it's having a conversation with a stranger, it is the voice that'll come up and say, oh, well, what makes you think that anyone wants to talk to you about this topic, for example? So I call her Prudy. She's very prim and proper. And I have a caricature of it in my own mind. So see if you can do that for yourself because it just takes the wind out of its sails just a little bit to do that. Also know that the voice of our intuition is initially faint, um, because it is so used to being overrun by the self-critical voice. But we can strengthen it through self-love. And in just a moment, we're going to talk about some ways to do that. And then finally, realize that grounding practices of different kinds, and Donna Eden's Eden energy medicine techniques are one example of this. They bring you into an ability to access a positive frame of mind. And that is critical before you're going to interact with someone. And I'll tell you why. When I had not yet had access to grounding practices, when I would enter into a conversation with someone who was in a position of authority, whether it's my parents or someone at work, if they said something that was meant as constructive feedback, my inner critic would immediately take up um, that conversation and turn it into a way to beat myself up. So I found that when I had done a grounding practice and had reminded myself, hey, I'm a valuable individual, I'm on this team for a reason, or I'm a beautiful part of this family. Whatever it is that someone is trying to say to me, I am going to try to hear what is of value that they're sharing with me. Okay. And when I was able to do the grounding practices, I was able to go in with that neutral or positive mindset. And my inner critic was not immediately activated. And I tell you, that is a superpower when it comes to um, learning how to interact with others and come away with peace rather than turmoil. And finally, anchoring in self-love gives you more resilience in facing uncertainty. And gosh, we all know living in 2025 in the month of February that we have a lot of uncertainty that we're navigating right now. And we just want to dig our roots deep and put them into that well of joy that you're going to make for yourself. And so, how do we harness self-love? And I'm going to tell you that some of these are going to be more intuitive to us than others. So, I want to touch on a few that maybe you're not aware of as much. So, certainly, one category is around grounding practices, energy medicine, breath work, and physical exercise. And within this, we'll take a look. You've had a taste of energy medicine a little bit, and there is. I'm going to ask you to search for a keyword, daily energy routine, that you can look up on YouTube to come up with a short list of techniques that you can do on a daily basis. It's one that I can attest bring a sense of calm and peace and just groundedness to ourselves. Then we have transforming your mindset through inspiring music. And I'm going to touch on this. I have a wonderful podcast that I do. And on it, we feature really inspiring songs that you can play for yourself and put into your playlists. And of course, EFT tapping, we'll talk about that in just a moment. But then there are others like journaling that I want you to be aware of. Uh, you could also create something new. There's something powerful about the act of creation. When we are creating, we are not a consumer. And I think that's a superpower of its own to engage with life in this way. And that creating something new could be artwork, music, videos, um, and also, you can and should develop some self-care rituals and routines for yourself. It can be as simple as, having a nice candle. Aromatherapy is a really powerful way to engage in self-care. But there are others, and I will share one. I'm originally from India, and I remember when I was a little kid, every week we would have some time on the weekends where uh, our grandmom or our mom would put oil in our hair and give us a nice hair massage. Or we would have an opportunity to do a little body massage for ourselves before we showered, or we would do some nice face masks. And that was just, no one got hyper about it. It was just something we did, every other weekend, and never knew that that was the self-care ritual all on its own. But especially after coming to the US, when the pace of life got a lot faster, these rituals and routines became the way that we reconnected with the deeper parts of ourselves. With that, I want to dive just a little bit deeper into one or two of the things that I've mentioned here. And I just want to share for anyone who does not have experience with EFT tapping, it's called emotional freedom technique. And this is a powerful way that we can release emotional blocks. And primarily, it's based on traditional Chinese medicine and psychology. And in the image there, you're seeing some of the major points on which you lightly tap. And the idea is that these are the places on our body, these tapping points, where we are holding a lot of energy or trapped emotion. And when we're able to tap on that, we're able to release these stuck emotions. And so there are many different scripts, but I would ask you to try a script, especially around accepting yourself. And that particular one, accepting yourself, has brought me to tears many, many times, but in the most relieving kind of way that helps you kind of get back to a more neutral or positive frame of mind. And then there are others like scripts about telling yourself how you are enough. And the beauty I find in EFT techniques is that it's not trying to paper over or paint over negative emotions. It helps you first acknowledge what is true, where your mindset is right now. And once you do that, once you release that, then you go ahead and put in some things that are positive. And one thing that I just want to do quickly with all of us, because especially those of us here that are female, identify with fatigue that comes from caregiving and having so many responsibilities. So if you're seeing that underarm point in the image in front of you, that's where we're going to go. For most women, it's going to be at the bra line. And I just want you to just gently tap there right now. And in energy medicine techniques as well, this is called the spleen point. And by tapping here, you're really bringing some fresh energy, some support to this part of you that supports your immune system, but also emotionally, it helps you add joy to your life. Take some breaths here. And then when you head to YouTube for EFT techniques, you can look for two of my favorite tappers, and they are Brad Yates and Julie Schiffman. Then one more thing that I just want to share is just that power of art. The fact that it's your unique self-expression. And as I had said, that it is, if you're creating, you're not a consumer. And it's a lovely way to just introduce some newness into your routine. Why? Because you're going to create something new every time. And for me, what I find even more powerful is combining journaling with creating art, because it really helps you to synthesize what you're going through. And I just want to read you one part of this. This is from an actual journal of mine. And you can see the image there, the idea that there are these storms that are going on inside you, and these tears can actually help you eventually transform your experience into an act of self-love. And the part that I want to read you is transmute your pain and heartache into a pure stream of love through self-love. Embrace the alchemy that meditation, tapping exercises, and affirmations bring to you in such a way that your feelings of being betrayed are lifted off and transmuted into self-empowerment, self-confidence, self-respect, and the feeling sampurnaham. And this term sampurnaham comes from Sanskrit, and it means I am complete in every moment. So that when we are anchoring in self-love, whatever's going wrong in our life is not anything wrong with us. we, in fact, are whole and complete in every moment. And when we're tapping into self-love practices, we are coming home to ourselves. We're reminding ourselves, I am complete. And then finally, as we're bringing our discussion to a close, I do want to share that I have a lovely podcast with a friend and coach colleague. Her name is Ivania Liang, and it's called Create Your Joy Podcast. And I hope you'll find us on YouTube. And there is so much to be said for inspiring music and its ability to move us. And hopefully, you'll find some of the songs that we discuss there worthy of adding to your playlists as well. And with that, I just want to leave you with this message. You have no need to travel anywhere. Journey within yourself. Enter a mine of rubies and bathe in the splendor of your own light. And if you'd like to connect with me, I am on Instagram as at SH Self Love Coach. And certainly, if you would like to have discussions about private coaching, you can email me about it. And Pooja, I'm handing it back to you.
Thank you so much, Shruti, for a wonderful and a very enlightening session. I think it's I would have listened on and on and on. Your session was so enlightening and it was so refreshing that it really makes you feel that you have to remove time for yourself, in spite of getting being so stressed and running behind and always trying to do for others. We need to remove time for ourselves. Let it be even 1 minute, 2 minutes, or 5 minutes. And it was wonderful, the way you explained the techniques and yes, definitely self love is the superpower for 2025. But how many of us really realize that, We are so busy, we are so carried out, running behind our children, family, work, that we forget ourselves. And being a counselor myself, I realize at the end of the day that where am I today? What have I done for myself? So it's a very good, thing that it, and I think it really helps a lot in healing also,
Yeah,
because we get, many a times there is so much disturbances emotionally which we go through that we ourselves need healing. Healing others is one thing, but how many of us really work upon ourselves, work upon our emotions?
yeah,
It's a big question mark. I still wonder many a times that what have I done for myself? And
exactly.
and it's getting good in market professionally. It's always good, but somewhere down the line we lack ourselves. And if we grade ourselves, how much, what percentage have we looked forward backward? It's 0%. Today, when if
Mm.
I see myself, what have I done, in either grooming myself or, making some favorite food for myself? I don't get time. I always have a question. I really have
Yeah,
no time.
yeah,
I would prefer something for my family, but being a homemaker or being a professional, it's always work for others. But in that, we are lost
yeah,
or we don't care for our emotions. And I think we have explained it so wonderfully, especially the techniques. I
yeah,
myself feel and self, you gave me a self realization and showed me a mirror of myself that Pooja, where are you today? So I
yeah,
think if I could get that reflection from your wonderful talk, yes, Arvinder, I think you have a question. Please go ahead.
yeah,
Shruti, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you agreed to be on the podcast with Pooja because it's hard in the Indian community, especially in our South Asian community. So Pooja, sorry, Shruti, how do you maintain a balance between your professional commitments and your personal well-being? And that's not just for you generally, but for all of us, for everybody. How is that something that you can just answer in a short snippet in regards to self-care?
yeah. It's the million-dollar question. And how I do it is by prioritizing and calendarizing, actually. And something I implore everyone here to do is to set aside, and I literally titled this Me Time on my calendar. And it doesn't have to be long stretches of time, honestly. It can be something like 10 or 15-minute blocks. But I make sure to put that into my calendar, especially my work day, which can sometimes feel like a freight train. And if you're able to calendarize it, then there'll be a reminder that goes off that lets you know, hey, it could be as simple as getting up from your chair and doing a little exercise. Or it could be, for me, often it is as simple as taking a break, going on YouTube and looking at a technique, an energy medicine technique, an EFT tapping technique that I want to do.
Thank you. I love that. Thank you so much, Shruti, for sharing so much with us today. We definitely will have the recording up and out for everybody to access not only the techniques, but to connect with you. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much, Shruti. Thank you, Arvinder, and thank you everyone for joining. It was really wonderful having you here, Shruti, today. And thank you very, very much for accepting our invite. And we're looking out for more podcasts from you. Definitely it was a very short time, but looking forward for more sessions from you. And we can plan some webinar or workshops so, we can have it on a grand scale. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, everyone. You'll have a wonderful day ahead. Happy weekend. Thank you.
Happy weekend, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much, dear. Thank you.